Hello everyone and welcome back to another fun-filled episode. We've got something cool for you today. I'm the Fox.
And I'm Kevin. And what we've got here for you is a new series that we're calling Back in Their Day, which shows the good, the bad, and the ugly about iconic shows from the past and how they affect our day-to-day lives.
Hey folks, my name is Cordero Uloa. I'm pretty sure we just decided to start with this one because this is a show I actually had planned separately from these guys for a while, and I went pretty in depth, and Joe thought it would be a good idea to pick up because it kind of fell off the train a little bit for me. So at this point we're all taking the first whack at it together, and I hope you guys dig what we're coming at you with.
That's right, I'm the one who goes and collects things from the Island of Dead Toys. Today, yes, we are reviving his dream, and we're going to go forward with this fun thing that we're going to do. The first thing we have that we're going to lightly mention is you may have noticed something about our format today.
Well, I figure...
We're supposed to talk about the circle.
Yes, I know, but... Scripts, people. Scripts. So as you can see, we're sitting in a circle, much like... God damn it. So as you can see, we're sitting in a circle, much like the characters of one of our favorite shows, That 70's Show.
The circle was the main way you saw them pretty much hang out. They were, if they weren't driving in the Vista Cruiser, which we will talk about later, they were always in the circle.
And we will be adopting that format or forcibly taking it, whichever really you choose.
Whatever
and
doesn't get us sued.
Yeah, that too. So hang on to that dial, folks. We're not doing nothing wrong. Parodies are okay. We're going to talk about the bad and the ugly. The first thing we have to mention is Bob's perm, because, come on guys. Did you see that thing lately?
Oh, it was great. You see it, compared to the rest of the series, it's great too, because he has the perm, but it's flat, completely flat in the back. Like somebody sat a book on the back of his head when they did it. So he goes like this, and it looks like maybe I'm wearing like a yarmulke or something the whole time prior to the thing. But the perm, oh man.
What do you guys know about perms? Anything?
Yes. My mom used to do perms for a lot of the people in our neighborhood growing up. They are either, the ones I know about are chemical. And I tell you what, if you've ever smelled someone getting their hair bleached, it smells like bleach. You ever freaking smelled someone getting their hair permed, it's like burnt butt. It is burnt butt dipped in feet. It is just not good.
So the prognosis is burnt butt. But yeah, they came from a long time ago. It's a really old process. They usually had tongs that they heated over a chemical or alcohol flame until it was heated to just the right temperature, which they would often tell with newspaper. So if they clipped onto the newspaper and it was lightly browned, that's a good toast. You can live life in the fullest right now, bro.
He's gonna punch him in the balls while he's down, Joe.
In 1905, a method was used that involved cow urine and water. Probably the origin of the insult pee-pee head.
I don't have a reaction to pee-pee head. I was gonna just look like a moron.
The process used about a dozen 2-pound brass rollers, and they would sit there and take often 6 hours long.
Not to mention they look like...
You said a bad word, Kevin. He experimented on his wife, of all people, the first couple times, and burned all of her hair off and left scar tissue.
He G.I. Janed his wife twice.
Yeah.
That is not cool.
Just imagine sitting in a dark room, lightly terrified by your strange, opaque surroundings. Nothing really seems like it's within reach, but it's all way too close. And then from above drops in this metal octopus. It's like a weird Lovecraftian adult film. In the 70s, acid perms really took hold, which you wouldn't think is as acidic as it sounds. They actually found a better alternative acid to the one that they'd been using previously with the chemical burns. Yeah, it's better now.
That's where the feet dipped butt smell comes from. It's not great.
Anything to say about feet dipped butt? Thomas Edison invented the phonograph in 1877. Edison used foil and Alexander Graham Bell added the wax, and together they had sound. Well, of course, other components. Emil Berliner made the gramophone 10 years later, which is pretty close, but instead of running on a cylinder, he ran it on a flat disc instead.
Now, I'm a big fan of vinyl, and I actually owned several, and I'm not proud of this, several Sesame Street albums on vinyl, and you have never heard Rubber Ducky until you've heard it on vinyl, dude. It is just superb.
Rubber Ducky, you're the one. You make bath time lots of fun.
They moved on to shellac and hard rubber because it was easier to form. Later getting into vinyl because, like I said, easier to form. You save money, you win, right? America. The arm and needle design continued to read the grooves for decades to come. It fell to the radios in the 30s and 40s, but made a massive comeback in the 60s and 70s when they started bringing out stereo ability. It sounded just like the actual recording did, and that's way better than scratchy radio.
Yeah, it's like taking care of CDs, though. The radio was much better.
Cheaper by the dozen, they say. They became the remix soundboards of the 80s and 90s hip-hop, and they are still kept alive today by audiophiles with high demands.
You may want to put the word audiophiles at the bottom of the screen, like spelled the way you're intending it to be, because it made no sense to me when you said it the first time earlier.
I'm sorry we don't all get running subtitles in our lives, Cord, but people just can't read me sometimes, okay?
That's because you don't have subtitles.
I know, I'm trying to get them. They're expensive.
Yeah. It's also, I'm trying to get somebody to follow me around and have theme music throughout my day, but that's just not working well either.
Well, Harvest colors were just more of like an aesthetic thing. I've noticed growing up, even if you had parents who had furniture from that era, it was always like goldish yellow or like some weird like burnt forest green. Just like, it's just an aesthetic thing. That shows up quite a bit in the series, and it's referenced a few times as an issue later for Red.
You know, you're the one who pointed out to me that it was in Harvest colors. I didn't even really notice, but when you go back and watch it, it's something you can't unsee.
Yeah. It's pretty much the aesthetic for most of the series.
It is. It is. It's running.
Yeah, having grown up in the 80s, I actually still saw a lot of the remnants of this left over in old apartments, old places we moved into. Like shag carpeting, you did have to rake that stuff back from the door. And it was terrible, but it was fun when you wanted to run your feet through it and shock somebody.
So, are you telling me that cartoons didn't just lie to me about superpowers? They took them from me with time? I can't have that now?
Maybe if you do it right, but...
I love your idea that you think you'd get your power of to harness electricity through scrubbing your feet across a little shag rug. I can see little Joe just...
Get it, dude, because I had bad ADHD when I was that little, so I was all over the place all the time. I was Tiny Flash.
When you're 6 years old, that stuff is great. Just running around, 8 years old, just... shock the cat. It's awesome.
I never got to see anybody do that in real life.
Another fun thing that I noticed in almost every basement scene in the first episode at least, we're gonna have to watch and see how far this lucky tape goes, is they duct taped the couch cushion back, see? And they brought it down and it just kept going. They didn't let it die on them. Not a lot of the generations afterwards continue to do that. We have this buy a new one as soon as it gets dirty ideal in a lot of our kids or adults now.
That came in the 80s when everybody needed everything to be brand new. When credit became a thing.
Oh, yeah. That's a racehorse for another day. Yeah. We can't jump horse to horse yet. We're not that skilled acrobats. The tape cushion is something that you saw so much more back in the day than you ever will see now. But you know what else you see on those tables? That's right. Comics. Because ever since they began, comics have been a staple in most families. And it's no exception here with our friends in the 70's show.
Back then, they also known as funny books. Well, I guess that's more of a 50s term. Probably a little more old school than that.
Getting grandpa on us.
Yeah. Hey, I've been watching lots of MASH. Lots of MASH. Almost done. But the comic I found is actually a really cool one. It was Superman and Spider-Man. It was the first ever crossover between Marvel and DC in the comic universe. They would go on to have a few others. I've seen the Fantastic Four, and I believe it was another Superman to Fantastic Four crossover. So they've done other ones in the past.
Yeah.
Or they did ones after, but it was them versus Doc Ock and Lex Luthor. which God knows how comic booky that plan is. But yeah, I thought it was cool.
I mean, those guys are pretty crazy alone. Can you imagine them being friends?
Well, one's a megalomaniac and it's way too invested in real estate through his history because apparently all he wants to do is just get property and taunt Superman with it.
So what you're telling me is if we bottle him down to an essence, he is an evil Monopoly guy?
Yeah, he's only missing the top hat and the monocle, and Doc Ock is just like that, except for he does all himself instead of waiting for, like, instead of paying 10,000 people to try for him.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always seen Doc Ock as more of the do-it-yourself or Bob Vila sort of guy.
He actually seems like what Donald Trump would have turned out to be if he were successful.
So I'm Dr. Octopus, and I'm here to defeat Spider-Man. It's going to be a great, great battle, and I will win, because I am glorious.
No, I think he meant Lex Luthor.
Okay,
Dr. Octopus as Donald Trump is terrible casting.
I just imagined the hair on Dr. Octopus and I just went with it.
I really like real estate too, though, and I totally beat up Superman.
So, are you happy with this beast you just created in all of our nightmares?
Yes, I am. You know who does that kind of thing? Not good people, and that would be me.
You heard it from the horse himself. That's right. Doctor Strange is one of my favorite superheroes, and Dracula is one of my favorite evil creatures of the night, so it was really cool to see that they clashed back in 76. I wasn't even aware of that. So Dracula is off feasting on the innocent as he usually is, and he nibbles on Strange's buddy Wong, which sounds way dirtier than I thought it would. And so Strange is like, oh no, Wong's my homie. So he freezes him to go find a way to try to save him. And in doing so, he comes face to face with the pale nightmare himself. Dracula gets the upper hand in the middle of the fight and then hypnotizes him. And that's kind of where I'm going to tell you to go read it yourself, you lazy moocher. They're out there.
Because you didn't read it either.
I don't like you voices in the sky.
So, what I was going with is what I feel is like one of Marvel's underappreciated heroes. But back in this day, he was known as Bullseye. Now, it turns out that hero, I'm not going to say he's the best Marvel superhero because I know I won't win that argument, and I really don't think he is.
So what you're saying is he's the best Marvel hero, and we want everyone to start us on fire with their rage and grace.
Yeah, maybe. But
He's a villain.
He started as a villain.
yeah. Back in this era, 1976 was the first appearance of Bullseye, which would later become Hawkeye.
So he swapped animals from bird to bull, and that's Snowball?
Sure.
I didn't even know that. I just found out about the Hawkeye thing. I'm kind of amazed because I thought there was only like 3 of them and they were all related to the one in the movies.
Speaking of Batman, we're going to talk about cars now because that makes sense, right? Yeah. So, everybody remembers what car Eric drove, right? Unanimously?
The
Vista Cruiser.
Yeah, exactly. Oldsmobile put out 3 model of these guys from 64 to 77, so it had a good run. It did its thing.
Yeah, it did its thing. It was awesome. It was big. You could fit everybody in there. Just throw them all in there and go to wherever.
Biggest downside though is the Cruiser's a boat, man.
Eric drove a 69 Cruiser, cause of course he did. You dog, you.
When does the boat get here?
The boat took 11.6 miles per gallon for gas, dude. That is not far. It's here to your neighbor's house if your neighbor lives at the end of the block. And gas was a whopping 35 cents per gallon at the time because of the gas crisis. You know, people would really lose their minds to see the prices today. I'm sure they've watched it go up so it's not as much of a shock. Take a time traveler from there to here and see how they react.
They die of a heart attack?
That gas crisis I talked about, was back in the 70s. And it was fueled by the war between Iran and surrounding Arab countries and the Iranian Revolution, two things that'll generally use a lot of gas. Prices were higher than ever and there just simply wasn't enough, as everyone kept saying, which, looking a good 50 so years into the future, how's it look we're doing on gas?
Doesn't look like we're doing too good. But, yeah, I see how it is. But
My bleepers. During the cocktail party in the beginning of the episode, you hear Bob kind of razzing Red a little bit about owning a Toyota sitting in the garage. And that is a direct result of the gas crisis. Foreign cars were a much more appealing option in that time because of the gas mileage, even just like now. I mean, there's still some of the better cars you can get as far as economy goes. With American cars being mostly boats, much like the Vista Cruiser, there wasn't a lot of other options in the 70s when everything was 35 cents a gallon.
We should have been going with alternative energy from the start. In fact, there was a design for a hydrogen-run car. That's right, the car that runs on water, that fuels some of our more fun mix-ups within the show. Watch it, see more.
It runs on water, man!
It did. It really, really did. Stanley Allen Meyer created his design for the water fuel cell, which was a perpetual motion machine. He claimed that cars could be retrofitted with the device and then to run on water.
So I actually did a little bit of research to this earlier. And a lot of these, it was dubbed pseudoscience, and some of it ended up being electrolysis style machines that drew the hydrogen out of the water.
Yeah, I've heard of that one too. In disbelief, full, entire disbelief. He had a meeting with some Belgian investors at a restaurant, at which he stood up in the middle of, said, "I have been poisoned," and then fell over dead immediately afterwards. Probably foreseeing his fate. But Hyde's got so many conspiracies, they're a running trope to the show that we're probably going to explore on much higher of a level. This one's just to kind of poke your brain a little bit with some stuff that we found.
Another running trope in the show you'll see is their abundance of adult material. And in some of these magazines, inevitably, there would be stars, of course, and one of their ones that kind of shows up in this episode is Farrah Fawcett. Married to Lee Majors, star of the Charlie's Angels TV series. Actually, was actually a TV movie before it was a series. It actually, got huge ratings for ABC, and then whoever was involved just kind of it went to series and it blew up.
Fly me to the moon.
One of the most familiar traits for Farrah Fawcett is her hair. The Farrah Flip, I think I just read it was called, achieved by, according to Randy, in the later seasons of that 70s show, by hanging upside down and blow drying your hair.
Right. I remember him. Sometimes I forget, though, because the show kind of changed after Eric left. I think a lot of people agree with that. But yeah, even Steve from Stranger Things couldn't escape the Farrah Fawcett fate.
I couldn't either. As you can see, this hair is fabulous.
Oh, so flippy! Yeah, you don't see her per se. She doesn't star on the show, but it's one of those fun cutaways that they do, and have Farrah Fawcett in it. And then they make her mouth move real quick, and then it cuts away. Yeah, those. We're going to talk about those here and there too, because history is important.
Study, kids. Yes.
And that's all we're going to give you this time. You get no more from me. No more soup for you. That's not a relevant reference at all here, but you know what? Go with it, because what else you got? And we're going to see you hopefully next week for another one of these. We want to make it a consistent thing so we can always come back and talk about what happened back in their day. I'm the Fox.
I'm Kevin.
Shit, I'm Cordo. You have a great night, folks.